We made some decisions that weren't aligned with what I had learned, but I was like, oh, I'm going to do things differently than what, just because my parents taught me this one way, and then I learned this in school, I'm going to do things differently and it's still going to work out well for me. Well, that didn't work out well for me, and I had to go back to what I had learned.
Money is one of the biggest stressors in life. Yet most teenagers graduate without ever learning how to budget, save, or manage it. Today on Careers IRL, we're stepping into the world of financial coaching and learning how budgeting can actually create freedom. Welcome to Careers IRL, powered by Books That Build Skills, the show where we explore real careers, real skills, and real pathways to success. I'm Loxley Brown, and today we're talking about something every teenager needs, but almost no one gets taught in school, and it's money. Joining me today is Jewlz, the budget nerd, a certified financial coach who helps families manage money, reduce stress, and build systems that support the life they actually want. Welcome to the show, Jewlz.
Thank you so much for having me. This is like such a treat. I have been I started your books with my daughter. She's 7 and we just love them. So thank you so much. I'm such a fangirl right now.
Yay! And before we dive in, if you enjoy real world conversations that help teens build life skills, hit that follow button so you never miss an episode of Careers IRL. So let's dive into this and let's get to the nitty gritty. What exactly does a financial coach do?
I love this question because some people get confused with a financial advisor and a financial coach. And so there's a big difference. So a financial advisor would be someone that's gone through a lot of licensing. There's a lot of regulation in that industry, and they have a lot of certifications. I am a certified financial coach, but the coach goes through the parts of our day-to-day money where the advisor would be, okay, they do this part, but they usually focus on the investment side. So how to set up a retirement and that kind of stuff. So I get to focus on how do we make sure that we keep the lights on? How do we make sure that we keep a roof over our head? The day-to-day stuff so that we can take care of that, and then we can save and build for our futures. So I really like to focus in on the behaviors and some of our thoughts and beliefs about money. And so that's where my sweet spot is, and that's where coaches really shine.
What kind of problems do people come to you with?
So I work a lot with people that have ADHD like myself. And so we struggle a lot with forgetting things that we need on a regular basis. So like I have reminders on my watch to make sure I drink water and, eat meals on a regular basis. And the same thing can happen with our bills. And so I work with a lot of families to help them set up systems so you don't forget to pay your bills, so you can keep that roof over your head. And then some of those things, like when we go out, I just got back from the trampoline park with my young daughter, and she's asking me all the time, like, oh, can I get this? Can I get that? Can I do this? And so we plan our money together in some of those scenarios. And so that's what I love to teach my clients too, is to come alongside them and figure out what matters most to them and their families so that they can create that money plan, that spending plan that matches that.
And what really surprises people the most about budgeting?
One of the biggest surprises I think people come away with is that it is so freeing. So when I first started budgeting, I thought it was very restrictive. Like, you shouldn't do these things. And it's like, no, actually, a budget is a spending plan. It's your permission slip to do the things that matter to you while taking care of your basic needs and then growing your future. So it is a real permission slip to spend your money wisely with intention, but also have some fun with it, because that's what life is meant to be enjoyed as well.
Yeah. So budgeting's not about restriction. It's about freedom.
Yeah. It's a tool, just like we would use, the lawnmower to cut the grass. A budget is a tool to align what matters most to us and our money and spend it wisely within those parameters.
Okay, now in book number 5 of the Charm series, the books that I write for a nonprofit, Addie constantly has to plan projects and manage her resources and make decisions with limited time and money. So in book 5, She is planning the budget for the team to go to the STEM conference in Denver. And then this little 15-year-old has to pitch that budget to their sponsor. Now, there is a free download on our website that you can use to do the same type of planning that she did. And it's a perfect way to learn more while you're reading terms books. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty of this budgeting for them to go to the STEM conference. Why is budgeting really decision-making?
So it is figuring out, it's kind of reverse engineering what you want your life to look like. And so for the STEM conference, it's like, that's the destination. Let's work it backwards and see what are the things that are necessary to get there. So, it's things like the transportation, it's the food. There's going to be some stops along the way. There's going to be some surprises. So I haven't got to book 5 yet. So I don't know if there are actual surprises in there, Loxley, but I'm assuming from what I've read so far, there's going to be some surprises. So that's what budgeting is too, is that you kind of have a surprise, line item in your budget. And so it can be have different titles. I know some people have called it a rainy day fund, emergency funds, that kind of stuff. And then there is literally the surprise fund where stuff just comes up. And so that is one thing that's guaranteed in life. There's going to be surprises.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do you think learning how to budget as a teen is such a superpower?
Ooh, this would probably be my favorite question because it is a framework for your future. Money is not going away. It has been a part of our culture for a very, very long time. It's how we exchange value. It's how we, depending on our employment, it depends on a lot of those things come into play. And so we need to figure out how to manage it because it's not going away. And that is super important. Every single person that I work with says, I wish I would have learned this sooner. So if you're listening to the show, now is the time. Whether you are 10, whether you're 15, whether you're 50 or anywhere in between, whether you're 70, now is the time to learn it because it's going to help provide some structure and some framework for your life that's going to create less stress for you, more ease. And I like to say it empowers us to make informed decisions and intentional decisions with our money so that we can feel good about spending money instead of feeling shame.
Yeah. How do you think this would change someone's life if they, as a student, learned this when they were 15 instead of at 35 when they're having a panic attack over paying a bill?
Yeah. The one, I think I remember learning about, finances and compound interest when I was in school. And that's probably, if you talk to most adults, that's the one thing that might stick in their brain if they remember that, from their financial education, in school. That's the thing, that the having time on your side. So the younger you are, the better it is to learn these things and compound interest. That is the thing to capture. And so, like I said, every single person I worked with I wish I would have learned this before. And so having that information now and trying to apply it to life. And I always tell my clients too, everything is figure outable. So we're going to make mistakes in this whole process. I made mistakes. I got a degree and paid that off. And so, with my husband. And so just because we make mistakes with our money and we make mistakes in our whole journey, everything is figure outable. And so there is a way to solve it. And so, the best way to learn, like I tell my daughter, is if we learn something, it's not a mistake. We just keep going and it's information to help us make more informed decisions in the future.
Now, if you want to practice budgeting and planning skills, visit booksthatbuildskills.org for the free downloadable resources and worksheets that can help you build these skills. Each worksheet corresponds to a skill being taught in each book. Now, big question for you.
Yes.
When did you know this was going to be your career? Did you, as a 12-year-old go, oh, this is what I want to do. This is going to be my career. Or did you, in your 20s, go, yeah, economics, that's the way I'm going to go?
I also love this question because it makes me laugh. I didn't know that I was going to do this until about 3 years ago when I started. So But let me back up because I was raised, my parents taught me these things. I learned a little bit in school. Then I got a degree in economics. And so that wasn't my first choice. So I went to college because I was highly encouraged. And that was something that was really important. I knew I wanted to go to college. I didn't know what I wanted to study and what I wanted to be when I quote unquote grow up. And so I started out with political science was my first choice because I love politics. That's a whole nother topic, but then I decided, all right, maybe psychology because I really like to understand how the brain works. And then I became undecided because I couldn't find my first psychology class. I think it was still a psychology experiment. Was none of the rooms were lined up in the right spot, so I couldn't find my class the first day. And I was like, maybe this wasn't meant to be. So then I had to make a decision. I came to that point in my studies where they're like, you need to decide or your time here is over. And so I was like, all right, well, economics makes the only thing that really makes sense to me. And it felt like it came easy, even though I failed my first class because I wasn't managing my time well. And so I didn't show up to class. So there's one very important part of life is show up.
Kids don't do that. You have to go to class.
Yes. Showing up is do that. That's rule number one of life. And then I got my degree. And then, like I said, I met my husband after I got out of college, and we made some decisions that weren't, aligned with what I had learned. But I was like, oh, I'm going to do things differently than what, just because my parents taught me this one way. And then I learned this in school. I'm going to do things differently and it's still going to work out well for me. Well, that didn't work out well for me, and I had to go back to what I had learned. And so I think one of the big takeaways for myself is even though I didn't want those things, some of those seeds that my parents had planted, I didn't want those to work out for me. They really did. And so, then that's kind of how I came to this whole process. Was I have been studying personal finance for over 26 years now. And I have worked in nonprofits, and I have worked with people that have lots of money, millions. And I've worked with people that have very little. I've seen people donate, write $100,000 checks without asking any questions. It's just been such an amazing experience to study how people interact with their money and what matters most to them. And ultimately, it came down to I wanted to create a life for my family and I that was focused on us and creating experiences and memories for us as a family, but having that freedom and flexibility. And so when I put all of those things together, a financial coach really made sense because I had learned so many things about money and the way that my brain works when it comes to money. And then seeing that other people struggle with this. And I was like, I want to be a part of the solution. I want to help people and encourage them in this process. So that's kind of the short version of how I came to this conversation today.
So we need some of those $100,000 check writers to write a check for our book kits. They could be the new Carnegie and help us get these book kits into the libraries because that's our big program we're working on right now for the upcoming school years, to have these in libraries so that people can check them out and it's available to everybody and the kit doesn't cost them because it's at their library. So, yeah.
Yes. Yes, so, we are big fans. We went to the library already today, so we are big fans of the library.
Yes, I am too. I grew up, when I was in middle school, I was the nerd, the bookworm, hanging out in the library, and she gave me the task of helping her keep everything arranged properly because everybody who knows me knows I'm like extremely organized and clean. I just like things to be pretty. And I was in that library all the time. Every spare moment I had, I was in there and helping her with things and reading. I read every book in that library before I got out of that school. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Bookworm right here. So girls, just know it is totally cool to be the bookworm. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And do all the summer reading challenges. That's what we're doing now.
Yes. And we have a great summer reading contest too. So you've got to check that out. But let's get back to this conversation about money. What did money teach you about yourself?
I think it's really taught me what's most important. And it's the relationships with the people in my life, whether it's the people in my home, my family of origin. It's my new friends like you, Loxley, like just being able to have experiences and get to know people. If I hadn't started this coaching process and started my own podcast, we never would have met.
No.
And I would never have been introduced to your books and your mission and all of the things that are so encouraging to me that I'm like, no, the world needs to hear this show. And like, people need to just be able to find your voice. And so, I think that money, like I said, is just a tool. It's a tool that we use to create memories and experiences, whether that's trips or like my family, we've really got into golf lately. So we were able to put a little putting green in our backyard and practice. And so that's been a really fun source of family fun. That we don't have to leave home for. And then, like next week, my husband's birthday, we're going golfing and we're going to the course and my daughter's learning. And so it's just been really fun to see what, not only what has, kind of boiled down to what's most important to me, but being able to use money to create those experiences and those memories with the people that I enjoy to be around.
Yeah, and let's have a little side note here because
Yeah.
I actually do have a podcast show with one of my friends who's a golfer. But let's think about this from the STEM side of things.
Yeah.
What does golf help teach you? It helps to teach you geometry,
Yes.
physics, etiquette.
Yes.
It gets you outside. Nature is great for your brain and your body.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great wellness. It's a sport. I mean, it's not a football type of sport, but it is a sport. And you do have to be in good shape. So just
it's a
think
lifelong sport though.
It is.
That's one of the things that I love is you could be 5 or you could be 95 and, depending on your health, you can be out there and playing the game. So,
yep. And having that putting green in your backyard, everybody should be able to have a little space in their place for a putting green. When you can learn that short game, you are golden.
Yes.
You got a good short game, you're good.
Yes.
Now, why is money management harder for people that have ADHD?
Ooh. So from my personal experience and then what I constantly see with my clients is we're in the here and now. And so when we talk about planning for the future or even just planning for next month's expenses, it feels so far away and it's like, it doesn't matter because we're in the here and now. So that's one way. And then sometimes it's like our brains just are searching for that dopamine, the things that make us happy. And so I think, kind of going back to that golf analogy and the wellness and things like that, like creating other things in your life that are going to give you those things are going to help with that dopamine seeking part of our brains. And that's what I've found, like working out for me has been very helpful. And just creating different supports, whether it's that impulse buy, the dopamine seeking, it's the forgetfulness. That's the other thing. Time blindness. I just paid that bill, but actually that was, 2.5 months ago.
Yeah.
But it feels like it was just, last week. So, it's things like that can get into, some of those symptoms can pop up and we go, oops, and then we've kind of got a mess on our hands. And so putting some different systems and support in place are helpful to manage those symptoms in our brains. I like to say a budget also is going to help you reduce decision fatigue. So when you're maybe not having a really high energy moment, that decision's already made for you because you're like, well, it's there. Or it's not. And then you can still achieve your other goals, short-term and long-term, based on your budget.
And do you have systems that actually help? Do you have suggestions of what to a system to put into place?
Yeah, I will say there's lots of things you can do, especially depending on which of the symptoms are the most prominent. But auto pay is a really easy one. For that time blindness and just not having to sit down, maybe executive function and just sitting down and paying bills. That's a challenge is just put things on auto pay. And then the other one that and a lot of my clients are like, oh my gosh, that was the best. And it's it is putting in your budget fun money or whatever you want to call it. It's your impulse buy, or maybe you have a favorite store that you like to shop at or online retailer
Mm-hmm.
that you like, and maybe that's what that money is. And it's so you get to indulge that impulse without completely derailing your finances. And so putting that in your budget, whether you're, 15 and you're making some money in planning those things, or if you're listening to this and you're a parent and you're like, oh my gosh, I always put everyone else's needs ahead of mine. Put a little something in there for yourself. It doesn't have to be a lot, but that's going to help you, especially if you're trying to get out of debt long term, create these long-term goals for yourself. It's going to help continue that momentum and not feel super restricted by a budget.
What financial habits do you think are the hardest?
Ah, um, this is a good question. The hardest. So I could answer it for myself. And I think that it is personal finance is one of those things. Everyone has a different habit, and it could be a different season of life. So right now, like we're, as we're recording this, it's summertime. And so our life looks a lot different in the summertime than it does in the wintertime. We're going out doing a lot more things and activities. And so, sometimes those habits, we have to rein them in a little bit because we can get a little spendy. And so being intentional and going, okay, what's most important? In our family, we say, keep the eye on the prize. So what's the most important thing? So, even at Christmas time, I ask my 7-year-old daughter, I say, hey, what's most important to you this Christmas? And so sometimes it is getting that one specific gift, or sometimes it is creating an experience. Like she really wants to go to zoo lights, or she really wants to just drive around and look at Christmas lights and have hot chocolate with her friends. I'm like, okay, so what would make this experience the best? And then build from there. And so, to answer that question, the habit is different for every person, and every family.
Yeah. Do you have some practical tips for keeping all of this reined in? Like for me, I have a reminder on my calendar. Every day there's a bill due, there's a reminder on my calendar to let me know so that when I'm doing my weekly planning, I can look out and go, oh, okay, this is going to happen. So do you
Yeah.
have any kind of advice, like practical tips of using an app or using a calendar?
Yes.
I mean, auto
So
pay is awesome.
yeah. So, a weekly habit, a weekly check-in. And so that could be the time that you pay your bills. It could be the time that you just check in to make sure, okay, my spending's on track. Or maybe it's looking at what are the things that are coming up that I want to make sure that I plan ahead for. So that's a big one, a weekly check-in. And put that on your calendar like it's a doctor's appointment. We don't skip doctor's appointments, so put it on there and you hold that appointment. And then we do, a monthly session together in my community. We do like a body doubling because I've found that that's really helpful for my clients to have time to, just do it together. So it's not necessarily we do a huge teaching or anything like that, but find some sort of accountability that works for you, especially if it's not your favorite task. So, besides myself, I don't know who else it's their favorite task budgeting is. And so, is finding that accountability. And then one super, super practical tip, especially for the parents, is keeping a separate email for your bills, for your receipts and things like that, because they can get stuck in that personal email or work email. And then also when they come up, you're like, you're constantly thinking and having to do that task switching of, all right, I need to pay that bill. I need to pay that bill. But if it's when you sit down for your weekly check-in and you do that, you can just open up that email and then just look at it then. And so that has really helped a lot of my clients and myself keep those things separated. So you're not constantly having to think about it, but it has a place and it's organized. And especially when it comes to tax time, you can just search those receipts up quickly, in your email provider.
If you know someone who feels overwhelmed by money or someone with ADHD who struggles with finances, share this episode with them. This conversation could genuinely help somebody. Now let's get to the steps to becoming who you became as a financial coach, a certified financial coach, because for those kids who are interested in this field, we want to help give them that path of here's how you start on this, as a teenager, do these types of classes. So what kind of steps would you advise a teenager into following in your footsteps?
Yeah. So I will say I did things a little bit differently, maybe non-traditional is what you could call it. I did get that degree in economics. It's not required for my role. I got a certification. It's not required. So the thing is, pretty much anyone, if you have some sort of financial knowledge, it's not a deeply regulated industry. And so a lot of people will say, hey, I'm a financial coach, I'm a life coach. And so there are a lot of because there is not a lot of regulation, anybody could do it. And so, and I just did a college and career fair with my daughter's school, and we were talking about podcasting and it's the same thing. There's so many different industries that you can get into at any age and with any kind of background. However, having some experience and some knowledge, whether that's hard-learned lessons like myself, and then getting those extra certifications are helpful, but they're not necessarily required. And so I would say for myself, those were absolutely helpful and also builds my credibility with my potential clients. But they are things that I have learned the hard way. I would say the deepest lessons I have learned that have been most helpful for my job now is the things that I wasn't taught in a classroom. It was my lived life experience.
Yes. So the degree and the certification is going to give you that credibility and let people know that you have taken the time to learn an extensive amount around that subject. But one of the things I also think is important is that ability to talk, the communication, and the vibe that you have with each other, because I will interview potential people to work with. And if we don't have a good ability to, bounce ideas off of each other, have that trustful conversation, then I'm kind of like, oh. So that trust factor is also a huge part too, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So who do you think really thrives in a coaching career, like the career that you have?
Yeah. I think someone that genuinely really wants to help people. And I think that's one of the things that initially drew me to this is I saw people that needed help and I wanted help. And I was like, I know this. I can fill this need. And so that's what I started going through the path of like, okay, what does this look like? What kind of things do I need to do to prepare myself for this? Do I need business licenses and things like that? And so, it was just seeing the need and saying, you know what, I want to step up and be a part of that. And then looking at the big picture that it was going to provide a life for my family and the flexibility that I wanted, because there are other coaches too that work for different corporations and things like that. So that could be a different way to go about this career. But I decided to venture out on my own and do my own thing because I like to call the shots. And so I like to be able to say, hey, this is what my time looks like and how I want to spend it, because that is one resource you don't get more of.
No, you don't. Nope. Knowing what you do now, if you were 16 again, what skills would you start building today to get you on this path to this type of job? So let's say you're going back to 16. Let's say hot tub time machine, and you get to go back.
Yes.
What would you do?
I will say I'm gonna give you two answers, but it's kind of the same answer in one. So knowing what I know now, I probably I probably would have, stuck with the economics degree, because that has been very helpful, not just in my current career, but in all of the other ones, the nonprofit. I did retail for a little while. Those things, it was helpful. And so I would probably still do that, but I I would really focus in on just learning everything that I possibly could about money and soaking it all up, because that and then listening skills, like personal communication skills, are super important for coaching. But I feel like any career that you choose, any path that you choose in life, being able to be knowledgeable about something and then being able to communicate it well and listen. I think listening is one of those things that sometimes the world kind of misses the mark on. And so if you can be a good listener, then you can be able to help a lot of people, but also just listening sometimes just makes the world a better place.
Yeah. Yeah. And listening without forming an answer or a question after you get finished listening, just being able to absorb. That does so much. That builds the best relationships and the best conversations.
Yeah. Active listening, they call it.
Yes. Okay, let's do some rapid fire answers here.
Yes.
Budget spreadsheet or a budgeting app?
Ooh, me personally, I use an app, but I tell my clients whatever works for you.
Yeah.
You have to figure out what works for you, but I love an app.
Okay, coffee or tea during your budgeting sessions?
I'm a coffee girl.
And how about the biggest budgeting myth?
Oh. Ooh, just, let's see. Oh man, how do I say this? I tell my daughter, rule number one of life, save a little bit of your money. So I would say the myth would be just spend it all and leave nothing, nothing behind. I used to work in retail and I realized on my breaks that I would go shopping. And so then I wasn't even making any money because I'd spend it all.
Yeah.
I had to leave the retail world because I wasn't making any money.
I spent one Christmas working at Pottery Barn and spent more money than I ever made working that part-time job in the evenings.
Yeah.
So kids, be careful about that too.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? And when you learn something new about yourself like that, it's just continuing to apply that. And so they're not bad things. They're just things, the way that you're wired, the way that you work. And so when you know that about yourself, you can make better decisions.
Exactly. Now, if you could teach every teen one lesson about money, what would it be?
Is create that spending plan and create it as if, pretend like, so if you're living at home, pretend like you're not. And I think that's the biggest tip I could give you is don't spend all of it on, going out with your friends and things like that. Those things are absolutely important, and buying, new clothes and those types of things, but saving some of it and pretending like you're an adult with your finances is going to help you later on, because that's going to help you build some savings. But also, if you start out acting in that way, you don't have to retrain yourself later.
Do you want to know a really fun story that I found out from a person that wasn't even a friend of mine, but I end up sitting next to people and having conversations, and then all of a sudden I'm hearing the whole story. Her son came back home to live with her after college, and she charged him rent. And so he was paying $500 a month to live in his bedroom after he came home from college. What she didn't tell him is that every time he paid rent, it went into a special fund for him, so that when he did get to the next step where he went to, get his own apartment or buy his first place, he had this amount of money he didn't know existed that she had been saving for him that whole time. Now, here's the key thing, too, because everybody goes, oh, that's just your mom. She'll let you slide. When he was late, rent went up by $100. And so the next month it became $600. And if he was late again, it went up again. And then the money did not go into the savings account. He luckily was never late, but she gave him that warning. She's like, I'm going to act like a landlord, and when you're late, this is going to happen to you. And I think that is one of the best stories of a parent with their adult, 20-year-old kid living at home, was creating that basically a down payment for him without him knowing about it.
Yeah, I think it's so wise if parents are able to do that. I think it sets up the young person for a super successful financial future. Because it's just like going to the gym and eating healthy and those things like that. The sooner that we start doing those things, it's a lot easier to maintain those instead of having to go back and retrain ourselves to do those things. And so, that's a really great habit to create and a great framework to continue on. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you, Jewlz, for joining us today and helping us see budgeting in a completely different way.
yes, thank you. I can't wait to read book 5 now.
Yay! If this episode helped you, please take 30 seconds to leave a review. It helps more students and families find Careers IRL. And if you know someone with an amazing career story, nominate them to be on the show. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and keep exploring what's possible. And come visit us at booksthatbuildskills.org and get your own copy of the book.